This is one thing that for now a couple of years we've been talking about, this narrative of these acts of vandalism, shooting at synagogues, schools, certain businesses. And we've been talking about this for a while now, saying like, what is going on with this? There's been a lot of people like Jesse Brown going along and making all kinds of confident claims about who is carrying out these attacks and linking that to the anti-Zionist pro-Palestinian movement, as this has fueled this narrative about this growing anti-Semitic dangerous climate in this country, which people like Jesse Brown have been ringing the alarm bells for now, like weeks and months and years, talking about this growing dangerous threat. And these like attacks on buildings have been held up as the number one example of that. Buildings being targeted, mostly empty buildings at night. And that's something we've been wondering about on this show. Who's responsible for this? That's something I'd certainly be curious to find out who the culprits were who were doing with this. Obviously, no one supports engaging in that kind of like adventurism or vandalism. So I've always been very curious about these incidents and why they're happening and who's responsible. Also, this somewhat suspicious timing of some of these incidents. How it often seems to coincide with conversations about Israel's atrocious, monstrous, violent activities around the world. And sometimes when there's news cycles about that, it seems like, or perhaps it's a coincidence, it could be, but it has seemed a little bit odd that any time one of these narratives is kind of going on in the culture in this country or on social media or the media or whatever, we then talk about this scourge of violent incidents and shootings of these empty buildings at night, predominantly. We keep hearing about like these quiet pogroms and the anti-Zionist hate movement. And fortunately, thank goodness, no one has actually been harmed in this hate movement. This is the one racist, anti-Semitic hate movement that has not actually physically harmed one person. And thank goodness that it hasn't, because obviously none of us want that. But it's always been, I think, a tough sell for people to try and suggest that there's this dangerous climate going on, when the only danger that they can point to is people shooting at buildings at night, restaurants and daycares and synagogues. This is one thing we've been asking ourselves for a couple of weeks now. And there has been, I don't know if people have been paying attention to this, but there has been some breaks in this case over the last couple of weeks. And it's for me anyways, it's really leading to, it's kind of a situation where you're left with more questions than answers about this. Because as much as people have very, very confidently tried to frame this like ongoing series of shootings, like across the country, like this is a tightly coordinated nationwide attack on different buildings at night without actually harming anyone, right? Which is coordinated. It's like a coordinated network. It's happening across all these different places across the country. It's happened in Montreal. There's been incidents in Toronto. And as much as people have confidently said, oh, this has to do with the anti-Zionist hate movement or the pro-Palestine movement, with zero evidence, it does leave you with a lot of questions. Who's responsible for this? Who's responsible for this highly coordinated national movement to attack this infrastructure? Who is responsible? So it's curious, the Toronto police uncover gun for hire network. Toronto police uncover a network of teens hired to commit gun crimes. Isn't that strange? There's a network of teens being hired to carry out these attacks. But why? Why is that? Who's paying for this? This is the question. This is the question that I and a lot of others are asking right now. Who's paying for this? Toronto police believe youth hired for gun crimes such as U.S. consulate shooting. Consulate, synagogues, GFL facilities among targets connected to gun for hire schemes, say police. Toronto police say multiple investigations into shootings around the Toronto area, including incidents at synagogues and the U.S. consulate, reveal a pattern of young people being hired to perpetrate gun crimes in the city. Chief Myron Demkew and Chief Joe Matthews spoke at a news conference Tuesday morning, less than a week after police carried out search warrants related to multiple shootings across the city. 3 recent arrests have been linked to the shooting investigations, Matthews said, including the alleged killer of a Toronto police officer who was shot during a raid Thursday. MQ added multiple Toronto area shootings under investigation, and 3 recent arrests are believed to be part of a wider network of young people hired to take part in shootings across the Toronto area, with targets including the U.S. consulate, Jewish schools, synagogues, and GFL environmental waste management facilities. Through encrypted messaging apps, young people are hired to carry out attacks against various targets. In order to get paid, they're required to film their attacks. Who's paying for this? This is what we're trying to determine. I'm quite curious about this as well. And there's a big investigation with it.
Look closely and you'll see a pattern. Gunmen in the Toronto area holding a weapon in one hand and a cell phone in the other.
What movie does that remind me of? Holding the weapon in one hand and the cell phone in the other. If only there was a film that depicted this.
Capturing shootings on video, seemingly in exchange for cash.
In order to get paid, they're required to film their attacks. Who is paying for this? This is what we're trying to determine.
Police say
Isn't
a string of
weird, Chad?
27 shootings, including an attack on Toronto's U.S. consulate, have been traced to a guns for hire scheme. With investigators now identifying the two men they say jumped out of the stolen vehicle and opened fire.
As far as these, we'll call them cells or networks go, we believe there's multiple. The sharing of firearms is common.
These 18-year-olds and others were allegedly paid to carry out shootings, receiving their orders through encrypted apps. The targets ranging from Jewish schools to a waste management company.
You may have a transnational group or some kind of organized entity that has really a bottomless well of potential contractors.
The FBI alleges it was Iraqi militant leader Mohammed al-Sadi who ordered the consulate shooting and an attack on a Toronto synagogue on behalf of a group linked to Iran. U.S. court documents say al-Sadi was captured on a wiretap, claiming, "In Canada, we have our guys."
Has that recording been shared with the RCMP, and what is your understanding of whether it's a group or an individual that orchestrated these shootings?
I do not want to comment as to
Iran, according like they're seemingly suggesting here, the people funding this wave of coordinated attacks on these buildings is connected to some kind of Iran terror network. To be clear, though, like this is not the suggestion that these attacks were happening. These shootings and these attacks on this infrastructure was coming from the pro-Palestine, like anti-Zionist movement in this country. With that claim was made repeatedly with absolutely zero evidence whatsoever. This doesn't strike me as someone that like is upset about the actions of Israel and they're gonna hire some like young racialized kids who are alienated or whatever and need money, and you're going to hire them to carry out these attacks on this infrastructure because you care about Palestine so much. So I think we can say that like that's nowhere near the kind of like organic connection to the anti-Zionist movement in this country, as some people have very confidently suggested. So this is when we get into, so of course this is being used to fuel comments like this from Jesse Brown, who says, and even like you look at the evidence for this in that piece, I don't think anything is like confirmed whatsoever. But Jesse Brown saying, Iran-backed terror network paying teenage gunmen to shoot Jewish targets in Toronto. Congratulations on globalizing your intifada. It's such a stretch. It is really such a stretch from someone that's been claiming that like this movement is this violent hate movement for months. And it seems like a lot of folks have seemed like almost desperate for a violent attack to happen, which seems weird to me because I don't think anyone actually wants that. But it seems like there's certain people that are absolutely salivating for that to happen so they can use it as this evidence for this plot that they've been talking about. But saying like factually, Iran-backed terror network paying teenage gunmen to shoot Jewish targets in Toronto. Congratulations on globalizing your intifada. So again, a huge stretch suggesting that there's like a connection to anti-Zionist organizing or the pro-Palestine movement in this country, first and foremost. But I'd like to like really just think about this. I would like to really think about the logistically what this accusation is. So Iran, that's been like, it's been, sanctioned and surrounded and encircled now for all these years. They get bombed over the summer. They're dealing with yet another war from these Western allied countries, America and Israel, with all these other countries supporting it. There's an internal uprising that happens, which, as we've talked about, there were violent and armed elements of that, which people connected to the Israeli government and the United States intelligence apparatus bragged about promoting and arming, which led to this whole internal uprising with a lot of violence in between the different bombing campaigns. And so what we're saying is, while this is going on, like, let's just say this out loud. Let's just like say out loud what the plan is here. So while all this is happening, while the nation of Iran is like its sovereignty is under threat, it's being bombed, it's being subverted, it's being targeted by sanctions, it's being targeted by propaganda. While all this is going on, someone connected to Iran, who apparently runs one of these terror networks around the world, says, here's what we're going to do. We are going to, because we're under attack from Israel and the United States, we are going to pay disaffected and alienated Canadian teenagers to carry out coordinated shootings on empty synagogues and Jewish-owned restaurants in the middle of the night, harming no one and ensuring that no one is harmed, and accomplishing nothing in that other than promoting this narrative about this like dangerous climate for Jewish people in the country of Canada. That's the plan. That's their plan. Like I think it helps, to like say it out loud. Say out loud what the accusation here is. Say out loud what the plan is. How does this help Iran? How does it help Iran for Canadian teenagers to shoot out windows in synagogues in Canada in the middle of the night? In what way? Like even saying, okay, that's what happened. It's the perfect crime. You know what I mean? Even taking this as a given. Okay, this is what happened. In what way does that benefit the country of Iran at all? Like, really? Fuck that parked Honda Civic in Canada. There's not more important things Iran has to worry about right now. This is what Iran is spending their time doing, while militarily defeating the greatest and most powerful and most violently brutal imperialist empire in human history. While we're in the middle of doing that, we're also going to have this side project. We're going to have a side project where we pay Canadian teenagers to shoot empty synagogues in the middle of the night. It's a benevolent youth employment program. I'm genuinely confused about what the accusation is here. Is it supposed to be like a double false flag? Is Iran doing false flags to make us think that someone else is doing false flags? Is that the plan? Is that the plan for to do something that seems so obvious to be a false flag that we all just imagine that these like rabid Zionist communities are engaging in this kind of thing in order to drum up this narrative and drum up sympathy and change the news cycle about Israel and turn the page on that and to promote this idea about this dangerous anti-Semitic climate? And it's so obviously a false flag that that's what the plan is. It's a double false flag. Is that the accusation? That's like actually the only way that I can think that you could even argue that this benefits Iran or the anti-Zionist movement in any way. But is that the accusation here? Is that what we're saying? I'm just trying to make sense of this accusation, like even just saying that it's true. Let's just say that it's true, just for the sake of argument. I really want someone to tell me what's the plan here. These infidels are just irrational and unhinged. No explanation needed. Where's the clandestine meeting? The clandestine meeting down by the docks with the terror network. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to pay all these teenagers to shoot synagogues at night. Why? Oh, just intimidation? Is that it? It's not a double false flag or a meta false flag. It's just to intimidate. It's because, again, that's what's important for Iran right now, to make sure the Canadian Jewish population is just really scared and intimidated and afraid to leave their homes. That's the highest priority for Iran at this moment. When they're being sanctioned, there's these efforts to overthrow the government. They're being bombed. They're being threatened with annihilation constantly. Now's the time we need to make sure the Canadian Jewish population is as intimidated as possible. Yeah, that's when we're gonna hear the phone recording soon. Yes, brother, I put the guns in the ambulance. We're so evil. We've successfully globalized the Intifada. On the phone conversation, look, we got him. There's two big covert missions right now. Step one, shoot a bunch of empty synagogues. Pay teenagers to shoot empty synagogues. Step two, we're going to fuck up the reflecting pool in Washington to make Trump look bad. It seems like going beyond like a stretch to suggest that this is a scheme by some Iran-linked terror network to do the worst terrorism ever. Not even like bombings, certainly not harming anybody. We're going to shoot a bunch of glass at night. Iran rules. That's right. That's the plan. They're just simply bloodthirsty ghouls. But if they were bloodthirsty ghouls, you'd think that like something worse than this would have happened. This is part of the problem. If that was the case, so these people are just bloodthirsty ghouls that want to do violence, but there hasn't been violence though. There's been shootings in empty buildings at night. Shootings which were apparently necessary to record at the same time. So it's not like, oh, they're just these bloodthirsty terrorists. But if they were bloodthirsty terrorists, you'd think there would have been terrorism, you know? Like this is all they've got? This is like the least intimidating terror network in human history. It is comical. I will be fascinated if this ever really does get solved. Like it does seem like, because the police in this situation are in a weird position too, right? It's like we have to take this seriously. We have to take these like series of shootings seriously. Otherwise it looks like we're just not doing our jobs. That's been another big question, right? There's all these shootings, but like there's no suspects. There's no one ever finds out what's going on. So then they're talking about this network of for-hire shootings, hiring teenagers to shoot empty buildings at night. And this is what the international Iran terror network is doing. This is what they're up to. I just don't find that very convincing, Chat. I don't know about you. I just don't find it very convincing. And I'm certainly curious to know the truth about this. Unlike certain other people in this country, I'm not going to make any confident, bold claims about who is responsible. I think it's very difficult to look at these stories and not maybe start getting a little conspiratorial about the origins of this paid network of guns for hire attacking these buildings at night. But I'm not going to make any outlandish confident claims about it. I'll be certainly curious about these kids that they're arresting for this, what they have to say. Now, there's the whole thing with the ambulances in the UK as well. And just like the way that like these ambulances will catch on fire and then hours later, every single politician is like, this is like a pogrom. Jewish ambulances. We talk about buildings and vehicles and glass as if they're human beings, and our politicians treat it with the same seriousness. Something that does not apply to any other people in these nations. I just think when you say this out loud, I'm just curious, like, is this the accusation? That was my main point that I wanted to get across here. Is this the accusation that the country of Iran, under sanction, under threat, being bombed, being attacked, funding proxy groups like Hezbollah, who actually do engage in like armed struggle, this is what this nation does at this moment, is pay a bunch of Canadian teenagers to shoot at restaurants and synagogues that are empty in the middle of the night. Is that the accusation? That just doesn't pass the smell test for me, arming teenagers in Canada. It just doesn't seem like a good plan to me. You know, not that I'm some expert in international terror networks. It just seems like not a very effective use of resources. And as I said, I'm curious about how this benefited Iran in any way. Because it hasn't, and if you want to say it intimidated people, but what it also did is contributed to this narrative about this growing, dangerous, anti-Semitic climate in the country of Canada, which is a narrative that supporters of Israel repeatedly love to continue pointing to and throwing gasoline on and continuing to promote. So it certainly seems to me that these incidents have benefited those folks more than it's benefited Iran in any meaningful, tangible way. I think the accusation is that it's a part of an escalation of violence dastardly Iran has planned for us. Always that phantom attack in the future they can point to. Like, just again, like, put yourself in the mind. I know none of us have experience with this. Put yourself in the mind of the leader of an international terror network. Do you want to do one terror attack that like damages infrastructure or harms people in some way? Or do you want an escalating series of minor attacks that harm nothing and accomplish nothing? And you want to continue doing that and escalating that so more and more people and more law enforcement agencies are paying attention to it before your big grand finale. Like, we don't live in a movie. This is like a bad 80s movie. That's not, again, I don't have a lot of experience with international terrorism, but I'm just trying to put myself in the mind of the leader of an international terrorist network that just doesn't seem like a good way of doing things. If you want to do a terror attack, you don't want to alert the law enforcement and media of the country that you're doing it in with an escalating series of minor attacks that harm nobody for months and months and months. You know, I feel like the element of surprise is supposed to be a part of it. That's my understanding. Good Lord. Iran is trying their best. Rob just insults their terrorism attempts. I'm sorry. It just seems like not a very good idea. See, the plan is to force Canada to implement more digital surveillance because we love freedom so much and would never spy on our own citizens otherwise. They're planning to destroy our freedoms. Oh, okay. I see. It's similar to 9/11. It's like, we forced America to institute all these like massive new federal bureaucracies that we can just get the money printing machine fired up to support. We've walked right into their trap. He's such a terrible international terrorist leader. I just feel like the one guy at the terror network meeting is like, are we sure that this is the best way to go about this? No, the one guy in the back, the one guy in the back of the room. Are we sure that this is the best way to do this? Like, what if instead of this escalating series of shootings targeting buildings at night, alerting the authorities and alerting the media and alerting the citizens of this country, what if we didn't do that and instead actually did a kind of like larger terrorist attack that targeted infrastructure or people or like actually meaningfully terrorized people? Because that's what we're here to do, obviously, as terrorists, as international terrorists. That's what our goal is. They're like, Phil, get out. We don't want to hear from you. We've got the plan. We've been talking about the plan. Everyone is okay on the plan, and you just got to shit on it. The plan is to pay teenagers for multiple years to shoot empty buildings at night, leading up to our grand finale. Everyone is on board with this, and you just have to be the one stick in the mud being against it. We've had enough of this. Here in our international terrorist organization, we want positivity. We don't want this kind of negativity. We're together here. There's just one step left, the clues. This is exactly it. Iran-backed terror network paying teenage gunmen to shoot Jewish targets in Toronto. Congratulations on globalizing your intifada, according to Jesse Brown. The case is solved. I'm thinking it's clue time. Are you a terrorist or a terror isn't? I like that. It's Toronto. Okay, that's good. I like that. You're bringing bad vibes to our old terrorist operation here. Someone's going to clip all this and get me kicked off this platform once and for all. Again, this is just like a hypothetical thought experiment where we're trying to take this headline and this accusation and put ourselves in the shoes of someone that would carry out this kind of plan. And I think the reason we're doing that is because the more you think about logistically, the more you say it out loud, the more ridiculous it sounds.